Okay, Roger, we're live.
Okay, all right, I'll call the meeting to order, September 12th, 2022. The time,
Is light off?
No, no. Come on, Roger. Sorry.
and the time is 6:02. All right, so let's do roll call. So I don't see Carl or Tina. I know Tina had a death in the family and Carl.
Heard from Carl, Colton is also out.
Okay.
This evening.
Have you heard from Colton or?
I did.
Okay, and I think I remember Carl saying he was gonna be gone, but I'm not
I
positive.
thought I saw something. He might try to zoom in, but I don't know where
I
I
don't
saw
know.
that. Or no, so maybe.
Well, we have a motion to excuse those three.
I make a motion to excuse.
Second.
Approved. Okay, so. Yeah. let's call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Approved. All right, so we have a new member and I just ran in and just met her, but it's Marie, right?
Yes. it
Okay,
is.
and the oath of office, is Kelly here?
I am here. Good evening, board.
That's who is behind it. Yeah, so, okay, so Kelly, go ahead and do your thing.
All right, so Marie, you're sitting there next in front of the screen, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, great. I can see you. Congratulations on your first meeting. So I'm here to officially swear you in. So let's do that right now. And I will go as slow as possible here. If you can raise your right hand and state after me, and I'll just say a few words and if you can repeat after me. So I state your name.
I, Marie Sapanich,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and state of Washington
and state of Washington
and the ordinances of the city of Lake Stevens,
and the ordinances of the city of Lake Stevens,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
good job, perform and discharge
perform and discharge
the duties of Parks Board member
the duties of Parks Board member
according to the law
according to the law
and to the best of my ability and understanding.
and to the best of my ability and understanding.
Whew, good job. Congratulations. So it is official. And I just wanted to give the board a quick update before I have to hop off and go to Veterans Commission. We are in background right now with another applicant that will fill your board completely. You've got one more vacancy. So hoping if all goes well, we can get that person appointed at next week's council meeting. So more to come on that, but exciting stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great meeting, guys.
Thank you. Maria, is there anything you'd like to tell us about you? I mean, we just met you, but
Right. Yeah, since actually none of you met me
No.
before today. No, other than I guess just that I am new to Lake Stevens as about a year and a couple months ago. So I came to Lake Stevens to follow family here and to live in the Pacific Northwest. I grew up in Central Oregon, and lived in California for many, many years, and now Washington. So I'm a West Coaster who has spent my career in mostly higher education, but primarily in recreation and athletics within higher education. So this board kind of drew me into taking some of my background and experience in, especially the recreation side of things, to kind of a community level and kind of my way to be part of a community that I'm a little new to. So that's me.
okay, we
Nutshell.
came in at a perfect time. Everything's booming right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so I don't see we have any guests, or is there any guests on the Zoom? I guess not. So, okay, so to action items, approving the minutes from August 8th. Did anybody want to make any changes or comments on the minutes? Marlene?
No, they look good to me.
Okay, so let's take a vote to approve the minutes. Approved, anyone?
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, any, all the votes, aye?
Aye.
Nays? All right, the minutes are approved. And now we're on discussion items, and Jill and Sarah will take it from here.
Fabulous. Well, thanks, Roger. The first item on for our discussion is for the Frontier Heights Phase 2. And I wanted to just give a little bit of background and then answer any questions that anybody might have. In 2018, the city acquired this park from the surrounding neighborhood. And we did robust public outreach. We had some open houses and park board meetings where we received the community input. We actually drafted, this was the first time the city had done that, but we drafted this plan on site. So the people that attended the open house, we had the landscape architect there, and they actually drew the plan based on the input that they were receiving. And when we space planned it, we had some priorities, and one was there was an aging playground there that needed to be removed. It had reached its useful life. They were also, the site had a large, it was a really tall, like 8-foot chain fence around their tennis courts there. And the tennis courts had really not seen any use. And so then they had another sport court area, but it was all relatively aging, and it was at the end of its lifespan. So the items that the community brought forward were a looped walking path, a new playground, parking, and the basketball court to be reconditioned. And then the exercise equipment along the trail, and then a multi-sport athletic field that you could play lacrosse, and soccer, and baseball on, as well as football. And so when we took all of those items together, we received our engineer's estimate. It was over our budget. So we knew that the emergent safety concerns of the playground took precedent. So in phase 1, we had to start with, and that brought us to implementing a phased project. So in the first phase was the playground, looped walking path, and the front parking that bordered Frontier Circle, and then resurfacing one of the basketball courts. And at that time, the plan, the phase 2 items were going to be the athletic field, and then the additional basketball court was going to be adjacent to the one that we resurfaced in phase 1. And then the exercise stations along the trail are going to be in phase 2 as well. So in phase 1, we completed construction in 2020 and opened the park, and it's been really well received. There were some items, obviously, that we were waiting for phase 2 to be able to do. And 2 of those items also were sensory garden, which was something we had never had in Lake Stevens before, as well as a viewing labyrinth. You see on the top of the site plan, there's actually a really great view you can get from Frontier Heights Park. And they thought really to capitalize on that view, they would put in a viewing labyrinth. So now we're to the point where phase 2 implementation is ready, and we've applied to the State Conservation Recreation Office for 2 grants on the site. And now, because it's been a couple of years, we thought it'd be a great opportunity to bring the plan back, show the public, and then also note that there has been one change to the plan. The plan originally called for a second basketball court in a location where the pickleball courts are now. But since the implementation of phase 1, when pickleball courts really didn't emerge at our public outreach, they're now being requested quite a bit. And when we put together grant applications, we did receive numerous letters of support for pickleball courts. And of all of our park properties, this one would best house a bank of them, of 4 courts. So then we did make that change just administratively to this plan. So we wanted to show you the plan, and then get any reaction from, anyone that was attending the meeting. Now, folks from the neighborhood can go back and watch the tape and kind of look at these elements. The elements that are in full color are the elements that are going to be implemented in phase 2. The sensory garden and the viewing labyrinth are not something that we included in our grant application because they were features that weren't consistent with the youth athletic facility. And it actually ended up making our application simplistic, and we were able to use matching funds from the 2 grants if the elements were the same in both of the grants. And because those 2 elements didn't qualify for the youth athletics, they were left out of the grant application. So you won't see those in the grant applications, but we are still planning on implementing those in phase 2. And just as of Friday evening or late afternoon, we were informed by the Recreation Conservation Office that the city was ranked as the 3rd project in the state for the youth athletics facilities, and we will receive the grant for $350,000 for that phase of it. The other grant that we applied for as well, we ranked really well. We're an 18th. It's a very large grant. They get a lot of applications, and we won't know exactly if that will be funded or not until after the legislature finishes the budget for next year. So the good news is we know we are in the funding category for the athletic facilities, and then pending the legislature, we may actually be successful in the local parks division as well. So we're awfully excited about that. So I know that some of you were on the board at the time that we master planned this, and then some of you were not. And so I'm happy to answer any questions. And Sarah has anything to add?
What is in a sensory garden?
What's that?
What's in the sensory garden?
So the sensory garden is for sense and looks, textures. So there's an example of one, although it was the off season when we took pictures up at Hovander, which is up in Ferndale area. There's, it would be a series of plantings that would have different smells, olfactory senses, and then also interaction with them. The looks of them are different. So it's just a kind of a specific planting, and they're really creative. They offer a lot of visual interest, and then also smell. We like to put some pollinators in there, of course.
And the brown in there in the sensory garden is essentially pathways throughout it.
Correct.
Okay.
I have some questions. Quite a few. The playground area, I'll do the existing part first. Have they fixed the drainage issue? Are they still trying to figure it out, or has it been remedied, or?
It's been fixed.
Okay,
The drainage issue that we were having last year. I thought that I received that, but we could definitely check that.
okay, because I know that it was pretty messy, and I went back there, I can't remember how long ago, and it wasn't as bad, but there was still water.
Mhm.
And then the other thing too is, we still need to put another, I noticed that they took the picnic table and put it and covered it with a shed. We need another picnic table in there, because one picnic table, I drove up there and all these people there, and there was 4 kids sitting there doing nothing. So I think we need to get at least one, if not 2 more, they don't have to be sheltered, just an actual picnic table and maybe have one on the other side, so the people that come in from that way in the park don't have to walk all the way through the park to get to the one. But I just thought that one was just it was so close to basketball court. And like I said, it was just all kids sitting there. And, if you want to have families come, you need to have one where if they see the kids here, maybe the families can go over here. And I'd like to see at least 2 more, but, And then the other thing, I know this isn't to scale, but is the pickleball court, could you move it more towards this sporting thing? Because it looks, to this drawing, it looks really close to the basketball court.
It is adjacent to the basketball court. If you look at the, between the athletic field and the pickleball court, there's a ring. It's in mint green, and it has 4 dots in it. Those are the towers. And that's, we can't build in that zone that has the rings around it. And then there's a slight bit of topography that goes up to that roadway or the walkway that's adjacent to the athletic field. So for the space considerations, we can't move it any further away from the basketball court.
Okay.
But with it both being sport oriented and there will be some separation of it.
Right.
And to scale, I would.
Right. Well, my concern, I mean, it's not a concern, but when you have a bunch of kids playing basketball, a lot of foul language, a lot of yelling, pushing, and then the pickleball court right next to is gonna be mostly older people. Most cases, I don't think I've seen a lot of young kids playing pickleball. And I just don't want it to be in that situation where the older people don't want to go because everyone playing basketball. I don't know if you've been to watch a bunch of teenage boys play basketball, but it's pretty foul balls. But that was my concern. Then also on the sports court, I see you have lacrosse, softball, and soccer. How is that going to be used as far as, is it going to be who gets to sign up first for it? Because you can't do all three at once.
Correct.
So is it, and who's going to get the priority? Is it going to be Lake Stevens? Is it going to be, select ball of some kind? Or is it going to be amateur, just amateurs having fun that just want to play with some friends? Have you thought of any way that's going to develop?
Well, some of the sports are going to be in different seasons as the other sports, so that will help cut down on the conflict of use, during that exact time. But we do have an athletic field rental policy that outlines our preferences, and so not our preferences, but our priorities to who gets to rent the field first.
And what is that priority? Do you know?
Youth is the first priority, and then I would have to pull it out.
Okay, because you say youth, but there's Little League and then there's select teams and, other people that might want to rent it. I understand that, but you have to have something in place because, I mean, if you want to, keep it more for, the people that live here, then I would think you'd want to have, the Little League be at the top of the tier, because a lot of these select teams, if they play, they're bringing people from, different parts of the, the county or, cities around. And it just, and I think you're kind of wrong with what you said about different seasons, because they'll play softball, they play fall ball all the way till, late October. Soccer's pretty much all year round, unless it's pouring down rain. In lacrosse, they play, pretty much all the time too, but in the dead of winter, no one's really going to use it unless it's, nicer weather. So.
For soccer, we don't have a select team. We just have the Lake Stevens Soccer Club.
Okay,
And
but
baseball, I think we might have some select teams.
yeah, and I'm just saying in the future, because, there could be a group of people that say, well, let's get a select team together. And so they try to gather the people, but I mean, it happens because someone will gather, and I know a couple of people that got a select team in Lake Stevens in baseball, and they just gathered everybody from Lake Stevens and had tryouts and everything. So basically you got to be ready for that too, for a select team over, LSJA. So just a concern in the future.
Yeah, sport leagues from anywhere. If Everett is full on their facilities for a given weekend, they may reach out. But as long as there's an existing priority matrix in place, I think that would be. Would it be open to the general public when not reserved? Correct. Okay.
And we can review that
Right,
athletic
priority,
policy
yeah.
that we have as we're going through everything over the next few months and bring it back, make sure we fully anticipate the multi-use fields and how to prioritize.
Fencing around the golf course.
Answer that, I'm saying. I would have to.
Typically like they do with tennis courts.
Right.
We do have the grass mound between the basketball court and the pickleball courts.
Definitely fencing would be good,
Yeah, I think it'd be really good to keep balls.
especially.
People
for
can
like-
chase a ball.
And I was wondering, between
Yeah.
the four courts, it shows a line, and I see the removable nets on the courts themselves But in between is my curiosity, so that if you hit the ball long, it doesn't go into
In
the.
Pepper, they have 2 courts that are fenced between, which is really nice, that you're not having conflict.
Yeah.
Balls flying in while you're trying to play, otherwise it can be just really chaotic.
Mhm.
That's-
And as far as the viewing situation, what kind of thing do they have planned for that? Is it gonna be benches or just rocks or?
So it would be pavers or poured concrete in a spiral formation until you get up, it gets you just a couple feet up. And then I think that there was thought of a bench up there for viewing.
You know, vote on pavers or concrete or stone.
It'll probably come down to accessibility, because we have to make sure that we can achieve accessibility with different materials. The ease of how we would install it, so.
So it's actually going to like spiral up to a.
Correct. And you do have a preference.
I prefer pavers or stones over.
So if the grade slope is outside of the ADA accessible slope, then we can look at those other types of ground. But if we're trying to keep it at the slope for wheelchairs and accessibility devices, then we'll want to keep it smooth. So it would be pavement or concrete, but things that we can consider. And for those that joined us, if you need a close-up version of what we're looking at, there's a board right over there if you'd like.
Sorry.
So I had a question on the playground, so the existing playground, and then you've got kind of the sensory garden, area around that. And then the same question, a little bit bizarre, but I'm thinking, so you've got little kids there, and then you're gonna have things that are gonna be, again, interesting plants, and I'm thinking bees. And standpoint of kids, maybe some kids can't be around that as much as they could be, but I don't know if that's something we could think about with the interesting type plants, like maybe not a place where you'd want to do like a butterfly bush. Well, butterfly bush would be okay, but like heather, a bunch of heather might be a problem in there because if you have kids playing right there, or if you got the little walkway there for the kids to run around. There's other things that we could do that wouldn't probably attract bees as much, even though we like the bees.
We can look at the plant species or the placements of them as well.
Will we get some more visuals before they approve all this, or is it gonna be going to the city council for approval?
It's already been approved in the sense that when we did the master plan of that was an adopted master plan and it was phased. But I'm happy to provide
Okay,
visuals. What
yeah,
are you
'cause-
looking for?
Well, I'm just trying to see this part, because in the master plan, they didn't have, the labyrinth or the viewing garden. And they never really had a configuration of the sporting, the football or softball and basketball. So it's the original plan was, of course, it always changes as things progress, but I'd like to see, do you have drawings or anything like that?
We have the original plan. In the original plan, there was cited to be the multi-purpose field, and then the viewing labyrinth was part of that original plan, and the exercise stations and the sensory garden. But when we went back to our landscape architect after the pathway was installed, the loop to
Right.
that, this orientation gets us the most playable surface for what we have available out there.
Okay.
So that was a change, because I think originally it had like the field running more north-south
Yeah.
instead of at an angle there.
And when we did that plan, that was, like you said, it was quite a while ago. So
Yes, I'm happy to send that out. I'll send it out to the park board for the first one. It was a conceptual, so it was a
Right.
landscape design.
Mhm.
And oftentimes we are able to really hone in when we start engineering. And when engineering comes in, that really sets sometimes what the actual slope's gonna look like and where these things can be located and still be compliant.
Okay.
with all the other requirements. But I will send that out. You bet.
Is there anyone else want to make comments on Park, Frontier Park.
I just think it's interesting, the challenges created by the circumstances there. Because again, like we're talking about, you can't have the standing water and things. So it's just kind of fun to see how things get put in, but how they can be put in.
It's a strictly shade that.
While we're talking about this right now, and this, are you here for the Sunset Park or?
No, I'm here, I'm the president.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, no, fine, I just don't want to speak.
Okay, yeah, I mean, can he make comments in the meeting, Jill? Okay,
I don't want to be out of time.
no, I didn't know what you were here for, so. Oh, yeah, go ahead and make a comment if you have something to say about it.
No, I'm just learning a lot. Jill sent me the overall design or an overall plans for basically this mostly me information. So obviously you guys have planned out a crap ton of set, so I'm more trying to also give input from some. Obviously, I'm mixing 20 minutes. I guess most of the time, so that view of 11, as you said, is a hill, mostly design.
It would be built up in a mound. I would say the hill's probably larger than what we're in, but about 2 feet. And actually if you look up on the upper right, the picture there, that's just taken from me standing there taking the picture.
Yeah.
So we think if there's 2 feet, it will really improve the visibility of that view and, capture the view where it is.
Yeah, so mostly, because my home is actually one of the only ones in the neighborhood that will have essentially ours is one sort of not a certain viewpoint. There's a serious drop in the power lines. So that's 2 feet, a 2 foot hill. You like a pretty good view. Only issue is that you're right in front of the town home, right? So that town home is obstructing the modern view. The best view you have, so the best view you have essentially dead center of Walter's view. I would say like one down on the streets.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially if you
I don't know.
I guess from the park point, I guess down, I'd say about 12th Street, that's gonna be, there's really good view that's currently there.
We think that it actually is located exactly where you're saying. That's where I took the picture from. But I think that when we had the conceptual drawn up, they maybe did the cross street north of where it was supposed to. But that'll be cited based on the view.
I was actually wondering what that little hill, where that thing was. Now I'm saying, so I thought this is side. That will actually help too, because that's a lot of our drainage issues right there on the upper right hand side of the two houses like that. That telephone pole, that's where a lot of drainage issues are happening. So I think adding that hill will be awesome, but you're gonna have a lot on the upper right hand side of the field side, you're gonna have a lot of drainage issues. Section right where you're pointing, except for right at the point of where the foul line is at in the outfield. That right there is a huge drainage issue, which you can also put but building that hill there will just emphasize that because all the water runoff. Some I guess parking, and I just want to correct that.
Correct.
That's gonna help a lot. One thing that community member, a couple of asks is, are we even getting more garbage cans along that first?
Yeah, let me take some notes here.
Yeah, I didn't think about that last meeting last week. Somebody brought up the fact that because of the current state of that parking area, we'll talk about that with people. It's unfortunately going on. There's a lot of trash that's down there because the fact it's gravel, and a lot of cars sitting down right now. There are community members that currently pick up trash voluntarily, but that is a huge point of where a lot of trash is. So they said with parking, especially for now, the public coming up to use that field, trash cans close to that parking area, so that way trash doesn't start.
While you bringing up parking, I've noticed every time I've been there, there's a lot of people just use it as the parking lot. They'll lease their trailers there, or you know, a old beat up truck that probably doesn't run. And is there any way that, you know, you can't keep people from coming out unless you put a 72-hour thing, but have you noticed that too? People just,
So part of that was part of the agreement with the HOA, so that part over there. Is there a good point?
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
I don't have a list.
so if you guys, this area right here was something you guys built this strictly, this was non-existing.
Right,
This is something that you could do the 72-hour parking, that's something we talked about that same issue. This is owned by PUD, I'm not sure you guys are aware with PUD and whatnot, but that little stretch of parking right here is owned by PUD, still,
oh, this is motorcycle, right?
yeah, so this area right here strictly is PUD, so there's actually some barricades you can see when you go out there, we see barricades, I think within it is PUD. Over here, this where she has highlighted, this is owned by you guys, obviously, in parks, but with the agreement, I actually just read this today, you just sent it. Was that it would be overflow parking for the community. But that's kind of one of those things of like, that's, like you said, that 72-hour parking, as long as members can still use those for parking, like those are agreed upon, but that's what we're trying to fix. Is there's cars in this parking lot, there's a Civic right here, and there's 3 cars up here that are not moving. That's something I'm trying to do with Lake City PD on the understanding of fuel, whatever. That's something Joe and I will talk about tomorrow afternoon. Because Lake City's PD we're still trying to get the same page with them about this is their enforcement, because our HOA owns this at the moment. Well, yeah, we own this, so we enforce that, so it's kind of a big misunderstanding between us and PD of what their responsibilities are, what's ours and whatnot. So that, but that's the thing we talked about in the meeting. As long as our community still is allowed to use it as a full parking. But not a lot of cars, jumpers, trailers, things like that, you know. So I mean, it's a tough area. That's one of those tough things that I'm trying to nip in the bud. That's I just on the board. Okay, where that's one of my biggest things is if you think about it, and is you get cars and whatnot. So there's all this red tape. That's sort of stuff. So, okay, discuss it. Sorry, I'm not trying to.
That's okay. You live there, you're there every day.
Yeah, so.
Is there anything else you want to add before we move on, or?
We touched it about the work.
Yeah, this part, yeah.
I'm trying to think, obviously you guys are killing it with compared to you guys, so that thing surrounding the playground, that's essentially right?
Correct, in the green, yes, that would be,
Okay.
you know, we'd always envisioned
Yeah.
landscaping being there, and then we thought the idea of a sensory garden really accomplished a couple different things. You know,
Yeah.
it provided some sensory interest as well as obviously landscaping interest.
Yeah.
We are limited, of course, in anything that grows over 10 feet at mature height. So we know that there's a lot of really interesting and beautiful shrubs that can be planted there. But as a traditional, you know, trees and parks, we're not, because of the overhead.
So it'd be like signage or that shows the sensory garden.
Yes,
Education.
right.
And what are those, you have a little stupid flag, what are those dots in the center top?
So
Yeah.
those are
Not the little set,
those are the exercise. Up at the upper on the trail, there's 2 on the
Yeah. Two top.
that is the exercise stations.
Okay.
So they would be along the walking trail.
Like this is most certifications, so I had that, so I need that. I appreciate it, I'm sorry.
Well, it's not an intrusion. We like to bring this forward so that for the board members and for staff and also for the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that they are aware of what the previous work and planning was done, so that they don't think the decisions were made last week to do this. So I am happy that you made it in. Did you have your hand up? I'm sorry.
I just had an idea about like the sensory garden, when you made a comment like the worry about bees. I was kind of thinking, what if we going to censor as education. We could have signs that will educate children and parents about bees and their habitats, their personalities, and they don't typically sting you unless you harass them or anything, so you can have the education. And also with the sensory garden, you have little factories of the plants, maybe native Washington plants to educate people learning how to garden or just wanting to know more about Washington.
We did talk, and I know that there was a lot of feeling of it being like an interpretive feature for the park. So exactly the things that you're bringing forward are fantastic ideas, because it's going to park should be recreation in all different forms. So, and that's, good education piece, especially as these issues are now really coming into more of the mainstream.
Jill, is the city still involved with the master gardener?
We did some research for Master Gardener when we put in the community gardens, and I'm not sure where that got left off, so I can find out about that. I know I reached out, I think, to another jurisdiction, and they had said that the format of it is changing a little bit as to when it was years ago. So yeah, we can dust it off and take a look.
Go ahead.
So obviously the property line goes straight from the fence, essentially on the right hand side between the two lots of houses there, you see black line goes straight down. Do you guys have future plans to landscape that area, or is it just going to be black versus?
I'm sorry, can you show me
Yeah,
on that map what you
yeah.
were?
Because this is part of that, when you first sent me the property lines, when I first discovered we have the land, and all that. Essentially, this phase right here is all your guys' property as well, so you guys own this whole area as well. Do you guys have any plans at the moment to landscape this?
This area right here is a wetland.
Oh, that's what, okay, so you
And then
can't.
there's, this will be the buffer, so this will all be restored and the invasives will be removed, and then there will be a split rail fence that there with signage. to that
Awesome,
effect.
cool,
Yeah.
that's, okay, so that's part of the thing I was trying to understand, so, cool.
So have you lived in Frontier Heights for a while?
Relatively, so I moved in October of 2020.
Because believe me, you guys got a really nice piece of property park and it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
From what it was.
The former president, actually, it was like two former presidents, one that helps transition that, and like I said, I'm learning a lot. I jumped in to. And there's been essentially all of our records were gone, so I'm slowly building a record to Bill, who's been amazing. That poor gardener, I'm trying to build up, my own knowledge as well as of what was, so I just got the agreement, our data to today, so it's actually power. So yeah, essentially is we have a basic flat line, I'm not sure if Joe told you, but we own half of the flat lines that possibly expand part of it. It's not something I guess.
Does anyone else have any comments on Frontier Heights? All right, let's move along to Sunset Beach. Gonna be another gem. It's gonna be another gem.
Well, we did receive some public input and the design based on our public outreach and our surveys, and then having the open house meeting. We received some, and it was very thoughtful. It was addressed to the park board as well as city staff, and so I wanted to include it in your packet so you can take a look at it. They were very thoughtful. If we could bring up the visuals for that. So the bulk of the proposal proposes to change the ADA access and the portable restroom from the north end of the property to the south end of the property. And they included a rationale or a narrative in their submittal. So that was the first thing to take a look at. There was also a proposal to have some gates along East Lakeshore Drive. And then also a fence, a 6-foot chain link fence between the parking area and the park itself. And so we wanted to just go over that with the board. We did meet with our consultants, and the conceptual plan that the consultants had drawn up that we had brought to you at the open house considered a lot of the slope, because if you remember, the number one response was accessibility. We wanted to improve the access to the site. And so with the slope, how it slopes gently from the north to the south, if we start the ADA access ramp with the ADA restroom and the ADA parking at the south end of the site, we cannot achieve a better slope that would be accessible for ADA access. So it changes the site quite a bit dramatically, but we definitely wanted to talk that through with the park board, and also talk about the fence or the gate system that they're proposing on the fog line or near the fog line of East Lakeshore Drive. There isn't a system that I'm aware of that would have like a long swing, that it's right on the road. So we wouldn't be able to close off the parking to that site without giving up parking at the site. And we're really, the parking is so limited at the site. And we know that came through in our public outreach, that, you know, access to the site, not just accessibility, was an issue as well. So we're not aware of any products that would achieve that. And then with the 6-foot chain link fence, we actually were out on site to do a site visit, to do some measuring, because we do understand the input as far as the restroom is concerned. Is it at the south end of the property would be against someone's garage, versus at the north end of the property it would be on the fence line. So we did really want to jet that out and take a look. And we noticed, you know, the stones that are already there create a barrier from cars entering the park as it stands right now. Of course, it's a low budget because it's already present there. And so we started looking at what does that look like for our level of service. If we were to put a 6-foot chain link fence at the opening or the entrance of this park, it is not something that's consistent with any of our other parks. We don't have them surrounded by chain link fence. It changed the atmosphere of the park. It changed the welcoming, you know, experience of the park. So we wanted to talk that through, and then also we had excited to have a split rail fence in there. But we're really thinking with these stones, we achieve the same demarcation at the end of the parking lot. They're already present at the site. It cuts down the budget. It also prevents anyone from accidentally driving into the park further than they intended to do. So we were thinking, you know, how do we get through, you know, the fencing of the site? Hearing the neighbors' concerns and hearing the public input at the public meetings, we do understand that there is some issues with the usage and people using this park those hours. So we want to look at what does that look like, to maybe put patrols on there, or other types of use, you know, other types of enforcement to bring that, you know, into compliance. Because we know that if we fence it, we don't have the staff to close the fence. We don't have the staff to open the fence. And the reality is that it doesn't matter how tall the fence is. If you're going to want to gain access, and it is on a lake, you can come up from the lake side into there. So, but we want to be sensitive also to the neighbors in that area, knowing, you know, that this is an issue. So we do appreciate that being brought to light on this issue. We're hoping there's a couple things we can do that would deter that type of activity. Another item that was brought up by our consultants was when you have a chain link fence, you can easily throw a blanket over, and then you have perfect privacy. So whereas with the stones, you can't, it's too short, And for set reasons, you know, a police officer can come in and circle into the park and they can see, you know, over the stones pretty easily and to increase patrols in that area. So, but we wanted to just bring this to you and show you the plans. They were very thoughtful, and they did offer some great input throughout. There's also some information, you know, around the dock and around the area that we kind of, like a lagoon, we kind of pictured on that north side of the dock. That was some interesting features. But you know, from the air, it looks like 61 Avenue. Together, you could do it to the north and do it to the south. And so, but when we talked to our consultants, it would dramatically change the accessibility to change everything to the south. So then we said, okay, what about the restroom? So if we move the restroom only, we still have all of the amenities and the ADA accessibility to the north end of the site where it would start the slope. Then what would it be to have the restroom? Well, we know best available information is that you need to have your ADA restroom as close to your ADA parking and your access as possible. So then, you know, does it meet that?
What's that? Red, is that a park sign there that's red?
I think so, yes.
Can I make some comments? What happened to the stone walkway in between the trail?
Well, this is just this is just some public input we received. So this, that they had omitted that in their design. It is still present in our design.
Okay.
This is the,
We should show, yeah, and you know what, Cody, let me send that to you just in case.
is this the design that the citizens submitted?
That's correct. Yeah, and they submitted that to the park board as well as staff, so we want to make sure. Send over that image so that. Sorry, guys. Okay. Screen, it's a little different.
So are we gonna try to combine these two to get the perfect example? Is it going back to the architect with this and what they already did?
Well, we wanted to, sorry. Oh, we wanted to just let you know that we had received the comment and then talk it through with you, as well as and let you know that we had already met with our consultant about that. And so that you received the information that was addressed to you. It was addressed to you from the commenter. So when we talked with our consultant about it, they did let us know that it would affect the accessibility. We know that's a big priority on the site and consistently throughout all of our parks. So we wanted to let you know that we had investigated or gone into, you know, vetting this out to see if we could make those changes. And we don't think that we would be able to without compromising some of the high priorities on the site. And then as soon as Cody's able to, we'll show you what the conceptual is from the consultant's office at this point.
Can we do a side by side or is that too technically?
And then
complex?
That's too much for me.
I couldn't even do that part.
And then
Totally
also
get that.
the, it's towards the end. There we are. Yes, and this is still the plan. The other issue too is because of the slope from the north down to the south, that's where all of our flow is going for the rainwater and the paved parking. And it's going into the LID and the low impact design rain garden at the southern end of it. So we would be compromising that area as well. We would have to do some shifting and some changing. And then again, because it's a narrower site there with a steeper drop towards the south end of it, we would have significant grading changes to be able to bring the restroom down there. And then we would also have to shift the ADA parking, and it still leaves us with the issue of having to start the ramp at the north end of the.
So they're proposing to bring the ramp around this way.
No, they're proposing to start it
Start
at
at
the
the
south.
south end. So in the meeting that we had with the consultant last time, they were saying that they didn't think ADA accessibility would be all the way down the water. Does this get us all the way down the water?
It improves accessibility through their design. It's not 100%. It's not going to be 100% ADA access all the way down to the dock, but we would have ramp all the way down to the dock.
So you start falling under what we call ABA standards, which is the Barriers Act, which is more federal law. And so it says, do what you can with the slope. And so although it doesn't meet your downtown sidewalk, some people can still access it with their mobility devices. It just depends on their capabilities.
Okay. Well, I'm really happy that the city's not gonna put a chain link fence. That would have been-
I agree.
I think the challenge with this one is like you always see cars parked there. I mean, all hours of the day and night, it seems like. And I'm wondering now if you were a neighbor right there, you know, what does that feel like? I wasn't at the hearing, so I don't know. Did people comment on that?
Oh, yeah, that was the majority of the comments.
I would just think that's your gut reaction with it. And so it's like,
So one thing me and Jill spoke to the consultants about was eliminating one of the two handicap designated parking spots. And also switching the ADA ramp for the van access to the same area where the bikes would come in and out. And then you would gain one normal parking spot instead of being reserved only for the placard. Placards can still park there, of course, if it's open. And you would be able to add an additional parking slip by making that shift. So that could just help an additional 1 to 2 vehicles depending on who's there.
So are they gonna stick, I guess it's still, are they gonna stick to this or are they gonna make changes to that?
That's the city's consideration moving forward is that
Is
this
this-
conceptual, we can make some, some small tweaks like
Okay.
that we had talked about, but we did, when we saw the public, we love to hear public input, right? So
Right.
this is how it forms and shapes our parks, and so we were really thankful that they took the time to
Yeah,
put a lot of this
someone
thought
spent
into
some
it.
time.
And to submit it to the city. And so we did want to just touch base and see what the Parks Board reaction to some of the suggestions were. And then also let you know that we did take it to our consultants and engineering to find out, what would be accomplishable. Under this. And it just ended up being, if you shift one, then you have to shift more. And
Right.
it ended up just really being at a cost of what we know was a large. And then also, but it did take us out on site, which was not, a complete loss, because then we said, well, we have these rocks right here. So, where you see wheel stops on the parking lot, it's like, well, those are pretty effective wheel stops, so.
So when they were talking about a chain link, not a chain link, but a split rail fence, would that have been like right in here all the way
It
down?
was, that's what they were proposing, is to have a split rail fence. And the reason for that is that every once in a while, somebody comes in And they didn't set their parking brake, or they didn't set, it was just one more of a visual delineation, don't drive into the park. But we think that it's probably more aesthetically pleasing to have the stones that are already present there with, some different landscaping perhaps. And then also it's a great safety feature. So we do know that there was a glow chain link fence before that. And when they took that out is when I saw the rocks. I don't know if they were there present before that or not. I just don't remember. But we thought when the county took the fence out, and the rocks were there, well, they served a purpose. And so, open, there's the photo of the split rail there. It would be essentially the landscape, any landscaping around that would just be stone.
The rocks would be up here then.
Right. And we would omit the fence at that point. There wouldn't be a reason for the split rail because visually the stones would make that demarcation into the.
Well, the split rail might look nice for appealing to the eye when you drive up, see the rocks. Now, because you go back east and everyone's got the rocks and the split rail fence
Yeah.
out of the mountain, so just a consideration.
Yeah, one of the comments that the field staff has and that I'm tasked to look at is how do we continue to reduce ongoing maintenance or things that can be vandalized. And so that was one of our thoughts on split rail, as well as one less expense and one less thing that can
Hopefully
be
they're not gonna
damaged.
go in and paint all the rocks with graffiti.
Spray paint is
Yeah.
probably on the docket.
Somehow the rocks are project right at the top, yet I don't know how they're still at the top.
So that was the purpose of bringing here. So it sounds like that you would not be supportive of the chain link fence and that it's helpful information to have back for us. So we will, the next step on this particular project is to bring you 30% design, and that's when it gets really down to engineering. So we get to see every last inch of the project.
That's what we like.
What that looks like, yes. So, so I appreciate your time on that.
Are any other concerns or questions about the Sunset Beach?
One real quick one, you were talking about the ADA parking, so you're saying, I think it showed 9 regular spots and 2 ADA. So you're saying if you took away an ADA, you could get 11 regular spots?
Well,
Is that kind of the
exact count will be
Okay.
done with engineering,
Okay.
because.
I was curious what I don't know, the standard expectation of number of
No,
spots versus like the percentage breakdown. Is there a requirement, I'm assuming?
Engineering.
Yeah, then, okay, I'm just curious how many, like, the give and the take of that is interesting.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, well, I guess it's board member report. I guess that's what this is gonna be about.
And then I did want to just note too, it generally is a discussion item, the parks update didn't make it into the packet. So I printed it, we gave it to you, so I can go over that now if you'd like.
Sure.
If you saw or didn't see, if you have a chance when you leave here, Maricopa Park got their name tables and so the ping-pong table and their chess or generous tables installed.
How long ago was that?
Last week.
Are you seeing people use it?
I haven't been down to North Cove,
Oh,
so
okay.
I know that a lot of people were surrounded around it during the triathlon. And it is seating, obviously when someone isn't playing the game there. And then also out of Picture Heights, the cornhole got delivered and installed last week as well. Davies Beach, the project is done. I think you saw that. It came in ahead of schedule, so we have to report up on that. The city did have to close the playground at Fletcher Heights. There's some cracks in the support beams of the swing there. So we're gonna have the manufacturer assess it. So at this point it's closed. Cedarwood, the structural analysis has not been returned back to the city, but that will really determine what the future steps are on that, whether or not it's able to be repurposed or if it'll need to have more extensive construction government.
Excuse me, Jill,
Yes.
did you say Frontier Heights has a cornhole thing now too? Where do the bags, how do they store those?
They
Just
have to
leave them out
bring
there?
you have to bring your own bags.
Bring them. And not here, though, you don't have to bring your own. We have some that they pick up, or you have to bring your own.
We don't have any that we supply right now.
Okay, because I know we talked about that, how to.
We're looking at ways of being able to provide some of those and, some having more. So, the Puget Sound Energy, we've been trying to reschedule the appointment to look at the Centennial Woods, the use of their parcel adjacent to the city's parcel for the purpose of the contract. And we are awaiting their reschedule there. So as soon as we have a meeting with them, I'll report out. Trails Master Plan, the first phase, we're still obtaining easements for that and working through the combination procedure. But we're also working with the city of Marysville for an alignment to develop that connection up to the Bayside Trail. And that trail is already in place in Marysville and has already made a connection to the Centennial Trail. So when they get their southern section of their trail built, and then the northern section of Lake Stevens will have connectivity to the Centennial up there. So also Frontier Heights Park, this is what came in late, was the grant that we received for that. So we're awfully excited for that. Voodoo Racing was here last weekend. They had their annual triathlon. It went well. I came down and saw a bit of it amongst the ash and the golden hues. But a lot of folks having a great time, and it was really nice to see them return. And 450 participants, they sold out this year.
It's awesome.
Great to see that.
Yeah.
It's great fun.
The Lake Stevens Film Festival will be held October 8th. They will be viewing some movies up at the high school and then using the mill here for their awards ceremony. We'll have some other activities as well. So anyone's welcome to come down for that. The Lake Stevens Rowing Club is going to hold the Bull Trout Regatta. They do that every year in October. That'll be on the 29th. It's going to be a really busy weekend that weekend because the next day is going to be the Harvest Market. And then the following day is the Harvest Fest. So that's returning to Lake Stevens. And that has been gone for, the show has been dark, so to speak, for a bit. So we're awfully excited to bring that back. We have the Touch a Truck, or what we call the Truck or Treat. And we have our vehicles out there, as well as I know the Lake Stevens Sewer District is going to have their team camera. And then the ARC trailer is coming from PUD. And if you haven't seen the ARC trailer, it's worth a shot. It's worth a look. The PUD comes in and hooks up to the power, and they use it as an educational feature, but they ARC power over things in the ARC and rose. That's what's up. And then there will be some opportunities for kids to trick or treat. There'll be a kitty parade as it's returning. We're going to actually take it down Main Street further. So we're just onwards and upwards. And then there'll be some vendors, and then we're getting some food trucks and some drink trucks. So yes, it will be a fun event.
Is the city gonna have their own little booth to hand out candy like they have previous years?
I think we are. And
You guys need volunteers again, or?
Yes, we will need volunteers. So I know that that Dawn's working on that. She's working with the Aquafest Fort will be helping as well, but we will be looking for some volunteers.
I volunteer to read.
I think that's more of a volunteer.
Do we know when the remnants of the old docks will be hauled off? They're in the parking lot there.
At Davies, I don't, but I can find out. Do you know?
I'll follow up on that. We ran into a lot of issues with the weight of those and getting them over to the facility, and essentially they were too long, and so they were going to have to cut those all in half again, and then we'll have to check on the progress from there.
Sitting in water a long time, I soaked up some.
All right, moving along then. Any more questions about the judges? Board members report. You guys have anything? No? Marlene, have anything?
No, I've been out of town for 2.5 weeks, so
Hawaii again? Okay, so I don't think any council members are in. So I haven't seen any on the.
Roger, excuse me, I have one thing I just want to throw out there.
Sure.
And I'm not sure if this is still available, but I had noticed when I was walking in the reserve that somebody was advertising, I think it was like 5 acres for sale. And it was back there where they have like their trailer parking. And not sure if that's feasible in any way from a park standpoint. It just was kind of an interesting, I think it might be landlocked. I'm not quite sure with what ingress or egress would be around there, but you just don't see that very often. So I just want to throw that out there.
Where is it?
In the reserve, they have an area where they've got the trailer parking. And it's kind of like a little dead end road. And right there, there was a sign and it was somebody, it looked like maybe someone, family property or something like that, maybe they were selling, but. And I kind of walked back in there just to say if it was wetlands or whatever, but got gnarly pretty fast. So wouldn't be surprised it could be wetlands.
I'll make a note of it. Thanks, Sue.
It's downtown, there's a little beach right there.
Well, I was wondering, yeah.
Is there anything upcoming agenda items anyone wants to put on the menu for next week or next month? Any comments over there?
We are going to be bringing you back Sunset once it gets to 30% design. I'm hoping that will be by the next meeting, but if it's not that, it will be the meeting, but I hope that we can get it to you.
Well, I want to thank Cody for sitting in for Natalie. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And we'll get our new member. If there's anything else, I'll adjourn the meeting. Do I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Hi.